Okay, so good day, class. So for today's lesson, we will continue our discussion on the theories of learning that fall under cognitivism. The last week class, we discussed Bruner's constructivist theory, and today we still have the same discussion objectives as last week, but this time we will further focus on the Gestalt theory. But before we proceed to our discussion, let us first have some review, like what are the concepts or ideas of constructivist theory according to Jerome Bruner. So as you can see in the screen, we discussed the modes of representation, and these are how information or knowledge is stored and encoded in our memory. And the three modes of representation are an active, iconic, and symbolic. And these are proposed by Jerome Bruner in his cognitive development theory. Kapag sinabi nating an active class, this mode is based on physical activity, and this is the first mode to appear in the cognitive development. While yung iconic representation naman, no, in this stage, information is stored in the form of symbols or image or pictures, no? Kapag symbolic representation, let's all be reminded that this is the more sophisticated mode, and this is the last to develop, and this is more flexible than the previous two modes that we discussed. Okay? So we also study the spiral curriculum, no? And as teachers, we must revisit the curriculum by teaching the same content in different ways, depending on students' developmental levels. And this is why there are certain topics that are initially presented in grade school in a manner appropriate for grade schoolers. And then the same topics is also tackled in high school, but on a much deeper level. Okay? We also discuss discovery learning, and it refers to obtaining knowledge for oneself. So, as teachers, no, we plan and arrange activities in such a way that students search, manipulate, explore, and investigate. So, the students might learn new knowledge relevant to the domain and such general problem solving skills as formulating rules, testing, and gathering information. We also discussed the theory of instruction, and Brunner gave much attention uh, to categorization of information in the construction of internal cognitive maps also, because he believed that perception, conceptualization, learning, and decision making, these are all involved in categorization. Okay? Whereas naman doon sa sinabi ko kanina, yung sa theory of instruction, Brunner states that this theory of instructions should address four major aspects, and that is the predisposition to learn, structure of knowledge, effective sequencing, and reinforcement. Okay? Okay, so for the overview of our discussion, here are the topics or the concepts that we will discuss further on. So the first one is the Gestalt principles, and we will discuss further the different laws such as law of proximity, law of closure, law of good continuation, law of good pregnance, law of figure and ground, and law of similarity. We will also discuss insight learning as per Gestalt theory or Gestalt psychology, and we will also discuss life space such as yung mga inner forces and yung mga outer forces. And in addition, we will also discuss the educational implication of Gestalt theory para magamit natin in the future kapag tayo ay nasa field na. Okay, class. So let's begin our discussion on the Gestalt theory. Now, the question is, what is Gestalt or what is Gestalt theory? Actually, class, Gestalt is a sensual theory. Like what we see is the result of light and dark objects, edges, and contours that we form into a whole image. So, as we can remember, sensual theories are of a lower order of thinking than perceptual theories, and these are concerned with the meaning we attach to what we see. Okay? So this theory, it originates in the early 20th century, and this is a psychological framework that focuses on how individuals perceive and understand the world around them. So this theory was the initial cognitive response to behaviorism, and it emphasized the importance of sensory rules and the dynamic nature of visual perception. So, class, no, yung term kasi na gestalt, it means form or configuration. So, yung mga psychologists na ito, like si Max Wertheimer, si Wolfgang Kohler, and si Kurt Kofka, they studied perception and concluded that yung mga perceivers or yung mga learners, they are not passive, but they are active. So, they suggested that learners do not just collect information as is, but they actively process and restructure data in order to understand it. And this is what we call perceptual process. Okay, so certain factors impact on these perceptual processes, and factors like past experiences, needs, attitude, and one's present situation. These are all can affect their or yung mga perception ng mga learners. Okay. Okay, class. So, according to the Gestalt psychologists, the way we form our perceptions are guided by certain principles or law. And these principles or law, these all determine what we see or make of the things or situation we met. So, let's discuss further one by one these certain principles or laws. Okay, so the first one, class, is the law of proximity. In here, elements that are closer together will be perceived as a coherent object. So on the left side, there appears to be three columns, while on the right side, there appears to be horizontal rows. So when objects we are perceiving are near each other, we perceive them as belonging together. So how can we use this principle in our instruction? No? In terms of grouping or organization, no, in our instructional design and classroom layout, we can apply this law of proximity to organize and group related information or learning material. For example, when designing a presentation slide or handout, no, placing related concepts or item close to each other can help our learners perceive them as belonging together. Okay, and we can now facilitate comprehension and retention. Another thing is when it comes to the visual aids and materials, diba, when creating visual aids such as diagrams, charts, or concept maps, no, we can use this law of proximity to visually represent a relationship between concept, no, because placing related elements in close proximity reinforces their connection in the learner's mind, no, making it easier for our learners to understand complex relationship or processes. Okay? Okay, so the next one, class, is the law of similarity. So in here, elements that look similar will be perceived as part of the same form, no? So there seems to be a triangle in the square, as you can see in the picture, and we link similar elements together. Okay, so how can we use this principle in our instruction? First, sa ating mga visual design, okay? Kasi 'di ba, when designing educational materials such as, for example, slides, handouts, or worksheets, uh, we can use the law of similarity to visually group related information, and the elements that share similar colors, shapes, fonts, or visual styles are perceived as belonging to the same category or concept. So making it easier for our learners to understand and organize the information presented, okay, in our visual. The next one is through graphic organizers, no? Yung mga graphic organizers na yan, such as Venn diagrams, concept maps, or charts, no? These can all be leveraged by means of using law of similarity to illustrate relationship between concepts or categories, no? So by using consistent visual cues or symbol to represent related items, we can help our learners to perceive connection and patterns more easily. Okay? The next one is through categorization and classification. Okay? So in activities involving categorization or classification, we can apply the law of similarity to guide our learners in grouping related items or concepts together. And by highlighting similarities in characteristics, properties, or function, our learners can develop a deeper understanding of how items are related and organized within a given context. Okay? So another thing is through analogies and metaphors, 'di ba? This law, which is yung law of similarity, can also be used in teaching through analogies and metaphors. So we can draw parallels between familiar and unfamiliar concepts, no? Highlighting similarities in structures, function, or behavior to aid in understanding. So by emphasizing similarities, we can help our learners transfer knowledge and apply concepts across different contexts. Okay? And the last one is through visual representation of data. So when presenting data or information visually, we can use the law of similarity to highlight patterns, to highlight trends or relationship. And by employing consistent visual elements or symbols to represent similar data points or categories, we can enhance the clarity and interpretability of visual representation na mag-e-enable sa mga learners natin to make them more informed and more particular in observation. Okay? Okay, so the next one, class, is the law of closure. So as we can see in the picture, no, we tend to fill the gaps or close the figures we perceive. And we enclose a space by completing a contour and we ignore then the gaps in the figure. So there is a tendency now, class, as we look at the picture, there is a tendency to close the simple figures, and this results in an effect of filling in missing information or organizing information that is present to make a whole. Okay, so how can we use this principle in our instruction? First is through problem solving and critical thinking. We can use this law of closure to design activities that encourage our students to fill in missing information and make connection. For example, presenting incomplete problems or scenario, no, and this may prompt our students to engage in critical thinking and problem solving skills in order for them to generate possible solution or explanations. Okay? The second one, class, is yung through conceptual understanding. And for example, when introducing new concepts or ideas, no, as educators, we can present incomplete information to prompt our students to infer or deduce missing details. And by encouraging our students to actively construct their understanding, we can now promote deeper engagement and comprehension of the material. Okay, and the third one is in the through creative expression. Okay. This law, this principle, which is yung law of closure, this can also inspire creative expressions in various form. For example, sa art, sa writing, or even in design. And as teachers, we can encourage our students to explore the concept of closure through activities that involve creating or interpreting incomplete images, stories, or composition, which may foster imagination and innovation. Okay? Okay, so the next one, class, is the law of good continuation. So in here, we have the tendency to continue contours whenever the elements of the pattern establish an implied direction. So we tend to draw good continuations line in here. Okay. So in here now, class, continuation occurs when the eye is compelled to move through one object and continue to one another. Okay. So how can we use this principle in our instruction? The first is through sequencing and flow. Like when presenting instructional content, we can structure the material in a logical sequence that follows the law of good continuation. So by presenting information in a smooth and coherent manner, we can guide our learners through a sequence of concepts or steps that may facilitate understanding and mastery of content also. Okay? The next one is through storytelling also, diba? And in here, we can apply the law of good continuation by structuring narratives with a clear or cohesive storyline. so we can engage our learners and maintain their interest throughout the learning experience. So let's all be reminded, no class, that smooth transitions between different segments of a story help our learners to follow the narrative arc and understand the underlying message or theme of a particular story, lalo sa mga English majors natin. Okay? And then the third one is yung visual communication. Okay? So when we are teaching our students about the law of good continuation, it enhances their understanding of visual communication principles. Okay? Kasi di ba by analyzing and interpreting visual stimuli such as for example, yung mga infographics, no? Or yung mga interfaces, yung mga students natin, they may develop skills in identifying patterns, organizing information, and even conveying messages effectively. Okay, so that's the law of good continuation all about. So the next one, class, is the law of good pregnance. So the stimulus in here will be organized into as good figure as possible. So in this example, class, no, good refers to symmetry, okay, and it also refers to simplicity and regularity. So the figure is perceived, as we can see in the figure in your screen. This figure is perceived as a square overlapping a triangle and not a combination of several complicated shapes. So based on our experiences with perception, we expect certain patterns and therefore perceive that expected pattern. And this law of good pregnance, no, this law says that we are innately driven to experience things in as good as gestalt as possible. Kasi 'di ba, good can mean many things in here such as regular, orderly, simplicity, symmetry, and so on, which then refer to specific gestalt law, which is nga yung law of good pregnance. Okay? So how can we use this principle in our instruction? First is through simplicity in our instruction. So as educators, no, as teachers, we strive to present information in a simple and concise manner, avoiding unnecessary complexity or confusion. So by adhering to the principle of pregnance, we can streamline instructional content, making it easier for our student to grasp and retain key concepts during our discussion. The second one, class, is through clear communication. So let's all be reminded that effective communication is essential in education, and the principle of good pregnance underscores the importance of clarity and precision. So we should articulate our ideas clearly. We should use language that is straightforward, no, because this will help our student focus on the main points and understand the intended message without being distracted by other details. Okay, the next one is through visual design. Okay, so in instructional materials and presentation, we can apply the principle of good pregnance to visual design by using clean layouts, clear fonts, and minimalist graphics, no, because this will help our learners process information more efficiently. Okay, kasi 'di ba, visual simplicity enhances comprehension and reduces cognitive load, which allow our students to focus on the content rather than being overwhelmed by visual clutter. Okay, next one is through conceptual organization. So when structuring our lesson plans, no, we can organize content in a way that adheres to the principle of this law. So the concept should be presented in a logical sequence with clear connections and transitions between topics, because this will help our students to build coherent mental models of the subject matter, make it easier for them to integrate new information and apply knowledge in various contexts. Okay? Okay, so the last principle is the law of figure and ground. And as we look at the picture in the screen, we now tend to pay attention and perceive things in foreground first, di ba? So a stimulus will be perceived as a separate from its ground, and this law of figure and ground is a fundamental principle in gestalt theory that describes how individuals perceive and organize visual stimuli into distinct figures such as object focus and grounds or yung backgrounds or surroundings. So how can we use this principle in our instruction? No? First is yung first and foremost class is through visual instructional design. So we can use this law of figure ground to design visually engaging instructional materials. So by manipulating the contrast between figures and ground, such as, for example, using bold fonts or colors for key information against a neutral background, we can direct learners' attention to important concepts and facilitate comprehension. This is the very common na ginagawa ko sa aking mga material na ibinibigay sa inyo, like yung mga important details na yan, they are being highlighted or yung iba naka-bold as to compare with the other details na regular lang yung color or regular lang yung font. Okay? Kasi through this, no, madadirect natin yung mga learners natin na mag-give ng much attention doon sa mga naka-bold or iba yung color, no? Because these are the important concepts that may also facilitate comprehension. Okay, so the next concept, no, we're done with the principles of the Gestalt theory. We now move on to the insight learning, and this was observed in the experiments of Wolfgang Kohler involving yung mga chimpanzees. Kasi si Kohler, he found out that chimpanzees could use insight learning instead of trial and error to solve problem. Okay? So, as we can remember, no, learning by conditioning is common to all animals and human beings, and this is also useful for early education. But learning by insight is suitable only for intelligent creatures, both human and animals, and this is also useful for higher learning naman. Like, it is a kind of learning done by observation, by perceiving the relationship and understanding the situation. Okay? So for example, when an individual or intelligent animal faces a problem, he thinks and looks over the whole situation and tries to find out solution. He tries to get some clues in the ways he should proceed to solve the problem, no? The method he should pursue and a general awareness of the result of his action. Then, class, no, suddenly he arrives at a solution through his mental exercises. But for this, the total view of the situation should be exposed to the individual who must feel the urgency of the problem and its solution. Okay? So, insightful learning is also known as a gestalt learning, which means that learning is concerned with the whole individual and arises from the interaction of an individual with his situation or environment. Because through this interaction, no, nag-emerge yung mga new forms of perception, imagination, and ideas which altogether constitute insight. Okay? So, the word insight class in here, it operates when an individual tries to find solution to problems. Okay? And in Gestalt kasi, di ba, Gestalt means the pattern, the configuration, or a form of perceiving the whole. So in this situation class, stimuli and responses are combined in an organized and unified pattern. So it is a theory regarding the perception. And this gestalt, no, it considers learning as a development of insights, which is primarily concerned with the nature of perception. And perception is a process by which an organism interprets and organizes sensation to produce meaningful experience of the world. Like, it is the ultimate experience of the world and typically involves further processing of sensory input. So, sa lahat ng sinabi ko, what do we mean by insight learning? Insight learning class is an extension of the term insight which was identified by Wolfgang Kohler while studying the behaviors of chimpanzees. And he said that insight learning, remember this, insight learning class is a type of learning or problem solving that happens all of a sudden through understanding the relationship of various parts of the problem rather than through trial and error. Okay? Okay. Another thing that we should remember under the insight learning, no? We should always remember that the important aspect of learning is not reinforcement but the coordination of thinking to create new organization, no? And Color referred to this behavior again nga as insight or discovery learning. So as per Color class, no, learning could occur when the individual perceives the relationship of the elements before him and reorganizes these elements and comes to a greater understanding or insight. And this could occur without reinforcement, no class. And once it occurs, no review, training, or investigation is necessary. So significantly, no class, insight is not necessarily observable by another person. Okay? Okay, and so for the last slide, no, class, we will now discuss life space, which is yung inner force, and the outer force of the Gestalt theory. So in the context of the Gestalt theory, which focuses on how individuals perceive and organizes their experiences, the concept of life force, no, class, inner force and outer force can be understood in relation to the dynamics of perception, cognition, and interaction with the environment. So let's now explore each concept. Okay, pag sinabi nating life force class, in Gestalt kasi, the notion of a life force could be interpreted as the dynamic energy or vitality that animates perception and cognition. So rather than a metaphysical or spiritual concept, it may refer to the inherent drive, again, inherent drive or motivation that influences how individuals engage with their environment and make sense of their experiences. So, this life force is the underlying energy. Again, class, listen to this. This life force is the underlying energy that propels perceptual processes, guiding in attention, intentionality, and meaningful engagement with the world, within the world. Okay, so we have two kinds or category, no, of life space. The first one is the inner force, and the next one is the outer force. No, let's talk about first the inner force. Okay, inner force class in the context of Gestalt theory, it refers to the subjective processes and dynamics within an individual's mind and consciousness. And it encompasses the internal motivation from the word itself, inner force, no? It encompasses the internal motivations, desire, emotions, belief, and cognitive processes that shape perception and behavior. Okay? This inner force class, it represents the internal drive, no, that influences how our learners interpret and respond to stimuli from the external environment. Okay? It also emphasizes the importance of understanding how these internal dynamics interact and organize perceptual experiences into meaningful patterns or whole. So, what are the examples of the inner force? Inner internal forces sa internal dynamics. O, yung motivation ng learners, attitude, yung feelings. Okay? Okay. So, on the other hand naman, class, kapag ang pinag-uusapan natin is yung outer force, no? It refers from the word itself, outer, external influences, constraints, and demands imposed by the environment. So kung ang inner force is, it compasses motivation, attitude, feelings, no? Yung outer force class, it compasses the physical, social, cultural, and situational factors that shape our learners' experiences and interaction. Okay? So, yung outer force, it also include environmental stimuli, yung mga social norms, yung mga institutional structures, and situational context that influence perception, behavior, and cognition. Okay? So, that's all for today, and get ready for your quiz number 2. Thank you.